Hi everybody, how you doing? Hope you have had a fantastic weekend. I'll get right to it. I learned now approximately 4 days ago that there is a very strong possibility that the Las Vegas ballpark, the reasons are specifically tied to the redesign of the outer area of the facility, not the ballpark, but the hotel that to go next to it after the Tropicana is demolished. And that time required to redesign it is cut into the implementation time for the project. And another clue as to the fact that there are these delays related to design has to do with the fact that the Las Vegas Stadium Authority has not started the process of reviewing and approving documents beyond its first meeting. Normally, the meeting that was scheduled for this year would have been that meeting, but instead, if you remember, they focused entirely on matters having to do with the existing stadium and also the hotel tax and the hotel tax revenue that was coming in, which actually was a good report. They were $18 million up, so they're actually in very good shape. So, that was the gist of the meeting, but there was nothing in the meeting, nothing in the minutes, nothing to indicate the next steps. And that's because now the Bally's plan for the hotel is being roped in to the athletics so that they don't look like they're part, so that little things like stadium access don't become a problem. You're coming out of the ballpark, you're going over to the hotel. Let's say the entrances don't line up because the designs are so completely different that, well, you have to take an extra turn to get there. I'm speaking in not referring to a specific design I saw for the hotel because there isn't one. But I'm saying that if you're not going to design the hotel with respect to how the ballpark looks, that can happen. And if you're doing a private bond issue and you're going to rope in the hotel, as I understand that's going to be the possibility, going to be the plan, excuse me, then you don't want a situation where these pieces of the puzzle don't fit properly. And that's what they were facing. So it's not bad news per se, it's just news. Now, again, it's not hard and fast that will happen because there's a silent period, sure. It doesn't mean that there isn't work being done behind the scenes. There is. Because not only are those designs being worked on, but also the preparation for the entire reformation of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Remember, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority was only designed for one bond issue, SB1, for what we now call the stadium. But now it has to be reformed for essentially two bond issues. And the second one is, of course, about a Tourism and Innovation Act that gave birth to the financings for plural, because remember, we have a bond issue and a tax credit for the athletics ballpark. And the other issue is that now there's the other issue that they're working with Goldman, which has a whole new sports financing department and a whole new way of forming these private placements. You would say, Zinni, what is a private placement? A private placement works like this. It says that we're going to take the stadium itself and just in the same way, well, basically, we're going to take the stadium, use it as an investment vehicle. In other words, you invest money in the stadium believing you're going to get money out of it over a period of time. That's it. So you're buying an idea of getting your money back over X period of time. How long that period of time is, I haven't been privy to that information just yet, but that's how it works. Now, think about what that means. It means that in order to a X rate of return on investment, you got to have revenue coming in from many different places within those environs. In other words, within the boundaries where both the ballpark sits and the hotel. And you've got to have places that can have concerts, restaurants, shops, boutiques, mini casinos, perhaps. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but I'm saying that the objective is to provide as many possible ways to get your money within that boundary. Sounds very Las Vegas-y, doesn't it? As possible. And that's what they're working on. Now, what this points to also is the need for having this kind of revenue throw off for another purpose. Not because, look, if you do it right, the investors are going to get a lot more money back than quickly if it performs well. What you want is an instrument that produces enough revenue for you to afford ultra expensive ballpark baseball players over time, like the kind that are going to cost you, almost $1 billion amortized over a period of years. That's the other consideration. So this is really a play for the future. And as much as the Athletics would like to build a new town in town, they don't really have room to do that. And they don't have, at this point, the appropriate development partner to do that. For those of you saying, gee, they should have just stayed in Oakland, I want you to think about something. First of all, government is not anywhere near, I'm talking about Oakland's government, anywhere near providing any kind of subsidy to the Athletics. And you would scream about the grants, but I'm talking about in the way of tax increment financing, something that is affixed to the land in terms of where you're going to put the taxes that it's produced, that money. The promised tax increment financing zone called Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District was never done. Not even close. Didn't even get close. And then there was the matter of needing another developer. This issue of the requirement of financing from another developer would have come up in the Howard Terminal situation too. Why do I assert that? Because Dave Cobble was on my show and I said to him, don't you need another developer? And he said, yes. And then I asked, excuse me, did the city of Oakland find a developer for you? Did the city of Oakland try to help? And he said, no. So, and then remember, Phil Ruffin, the owner of Treasure Island in Las Vegas, among other properties, flew out to Oakland. Ostensibly, you think maybe he was going to invest in Howard Terminal? I'd love to know what the intent was there. Because there's definitely prime real estate in Oakland to be considered. And even in the state that the economy is in, you can't deny that because of its location, it's still attractive if the government economics are right. Okay. And if the environmental economics are right. In other words, if we get our sea level rise act together. In other words, if we spend money. In other words, if we improve the infrastructure around it. You can't just say, hey, this is nice land, and the roads are set up, the drainage doesn't work, and so on. Because it might be nice land, but then it's not land that you can actually do anything on of true economic value over a reasonable period of time. That's the situation that is found in a number of parts of Oakland right now, in particular the Coliseum, which is severely, to put it just very simply, not enough money has gone into it to improve it, to make it attractive for anybody to want to establish any business there. And that has to happen from the government, as opposed to waiting for some quote billionaire unquote. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, the people who think that's the way it works, and they're mesmerized by an economy that we were coming out of, where venture capitalists ruled the day and they threw billions in many cases at thinking, okay, throw a billion at land use. Well, what you're trying to achieve as a developer is control of land. And when you get the control of land, you also need to do, arguably have done, your market studies regarding population growth, income produced by that population, business product, and then other matters as, for example, transportation infrastructure, government incentives that are available, and the politics. And the whole purpose of that is for you to have comfort that what you build will generate enough revenue. Others will attract enough people into it to produce revenue, not to more than pay for itself, but also to allow you, the baseball owner, to field a competitive team over time. So there's a double set of responsibilities there. And something that students learned when they played my Oakland Baseball Sim World at the University of San Francisco and 40 other high schools and colleges around the world, London, between 2002 and 2010 when we went dormant. Stuff happens. But at any rate, what I learned with Dan Rasher in developing a field that I call baseball business dynamics is that even if you're going to have a privately financed stadium, those revenue flows matter. It doesn't matter whether it's public or private. And in this instance, with the Athletics in Las Vegas, it's those revenue flows, and it's your ability to have a sponsor that's going to pay in and make those revenue flows robust. What do I mean? United Airlines putting its name on Chase Center for the Warriors as one example, or Allegiant Airlines putting its name on the Las Vegas Stadium for the Raiders for $400 million. All of that factors into the equation. So, or GM saying that they're going to put their sign your entrances as one example of a possible naming rights deal. All of that factors to the total value of the stream that the stadium uses. And all of that factors into, since it's the A's will own the revenue stream, all of that factors into the Athletics franchise value over time. The amount of revenue they make per year times 4. That's the measurement. And so where that's where the project is. And I want to take time to make sure you all understand something. This has nothing to do with John Fisher's wealth. All right. And I want to make a video that states that. I've stated it before and I'll state it again. There are a number of reasons why people with far less wealth than John Fisher have been able to establish both Major League Baseball and NFL teams. And again, at the end of the day, to right now, it's land, which are two things. You want land and site control, and you want government investment in the form of a subsidy. And arguably, from the standpoint of government, that they want you to be invested because it means that you're much more likely to establish diverse hiring practices that are sensitive to sexuality. In other words, by not being sexist. All of the matters that government is concerned about can be achieved when government is a partner in investing in a stadium. Employment, not just for people by demographics, but also by economic position. People who are young teenagers who need jobs, internships, all that can be achieved if the government and the sports organization are working hand in glove. That's why government investment subsidies are so important. And it's really sad that you have people like this field of ridiculousness, talking about that shouldn't be subsidies into sports stadiums. And if you really dig down, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do you have an issue with people who don't look like you getting jobs, or any kind of quid pro quo that causes a organization worth many billions of dollars to really do its community fair share? That's what it's all about. All right. And if you read down not too far deep into what is written by these people, um, that's at the basis. I don't care if it's Field of whatever, or JC, what's his name, down here in Savannah, Georgia, who claims he's an economist and makes these ridiculous analyses about projects like, for example, Atlanta's an Atlanta Braves stadium at the Battery, and uses these fake numbers to try to say that, hey, it had nothing to do with the growth in the area and all this. You look and you figured out that he's doctored his own numbers. Ridiculous stuff like that, you know, absolutely ridiculous. Okay. And so, um, but the bottom line is the Athletics. Let's get to what they don't have at this point. They have Bally's. Vital Vegas has been putting out this idea that Bally's is broke. If you know how to read Bally's reports or any financial statements that comes as part of a tender offer or SEC report, and you read Bally's, you can figure out really quick they're not broke. What Bally's has done is it's made commitments to certain developments that take money out of its revenue stream. But guess what the constant is, folks? It's revenue stream. Okay. So if it decides, hey, we are going to not invest over here and then invest more over here in Las Vegas, as they want to do, that's what will happen. But the idea, tossing around the idea that Bally's is broke, tells me that he and others have no idea what they're talking about and are being pulled along by somebody out there who's undoubtedly paying them to get this ridiculous I point of view in the public. It's not true. Okay, it is not true. I've told Scott privately that, and then there's a reason he's went to block me over the past couple. I think it was a week or couple. I happened to notice. I don't know when it actually occurred, and I took it as a statement that I was getting to somebody out there, and they didn't want my point of view to be echoed through him because he was following me. And so instead of just unfollowing me, he actually blocked me, which I thought was completely silly. And it is completely silly. So there's something going on when a person does that, like particularly like him, who gets the attention of a lot of casino people and everything. There's somebody out there that wants it to be a bad look for the Athletics. Now, I believe the mayor of Oakland knows who this is, and the mayor of Oakland staff. And I believe that the mayor of Oakland staff may have even gone so far as to buy publicity to advance this fake news that's been cutting out sometimes like a torrential flood of untruth words and ill-conceived ideas. Uh, Anything just to consistently keep the project a little off base. That doesn't happen. That's not happening by accident. All right, that's happening on purpose. It be even other people that maybe more. I'm going to say this. Maybe somebody. I know Mark Bedane does not like Dave Cavell, and he's involved in there. I don't know what gain Mark would get from such an operation, except to say that, hey, if it doesn't work out, or if he makes it so it doesn't work out for the Athletics, maybe Oakview can come in and be the organization. Think about that. Maybe Oakview can come in and be the organization that brings expansion baseball to Las Vegas. But if they're trying to do that, they're really behind. And also, they're playing with fire in terms of the other people that are interested in committing themselves to the A's ballpark, especially now the design is finished. Okay. But what I just offer you is pure speculation. I have no evidence other than Bourdain's negative comments and how they've been received around the sports industry that's actually the case. But why would he say it during a major event, the Vegas Chamber last year? It boggles the mind. Okay, I talked to a friend of mine. We were both puzzled why he would take that kind of series of statements or make this kind of series of statements to a public audience. And I know for a fact the Athletics didn't like it at all. There are people who've known Mark Bourdain for a very long time who are shocked, saddened, and disappointed over his words, especially since they were only trying to improve. The whole issue of this came up because the Athletics, as the A's are trying to move out, we're going about the task of improving areas of the Coliseum to make it better for Oakland fans. That's how the treehouse came about, you know? And so Mark didn't like that. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say, hey, look, we're going to stay in the Coliseum. We don't want the Coliseum improved for you, Oakland A's. And that's what is alleged the Raiders under Mark Bourdain did. I know. I said under Mark Bourdain. This has nothing to do, because obvious ancient history, because it's in Oakland, right? But it has nothing to do with the current regime, which is ran by Sarah Douglas Morgan, who was the president of the Las Vegas Raiders. It has nothing to do with them, but it is some bad blood that has managed to make its way into Las Vegas in the form of Bourdain statements with the Oakview Group, which claims to have $10 billion to spend on building a sports campus in the Las Vegas Valley. Now, they have been known to focus on basketball. No one has ever linked them to baseball at all. But again, with Mark Bourdain's statements, it's not out of line to believe that he could be someone trying to throw a monkey wrench into this behind the scenes. It would not surprise me at all. Okay. It would not. Now, Vegas Mark, I'll get the comments here that are relevant. Says Gravity Fallout Pine says if Bally's can incorporate the hotel into the ballpark, then instead of a mere 9-acre ballpark, it will feel more like a 36-acre hotel ballpark complex. That's correct. It'll be truly integrated. It'll be truly integrated. Remember, John Fisher said that they were entertaining different ideas from the hotel owner. Okay. So, yeah, that's right. And so then we have Vegas Mark says Mark Bourdain has no choice but to share the Vegas pie with the other sports teams and organizations that have set up shop here. Well, I get that. But if you're Mark and you believe that you have $10 billion to spend, then in the next breath, you also believe that you're basically uh, the head sports organization in charge and can basically and need to assert your presence in the area in the way that you choose to do so. Now, currently, that way is to say, look, we're going to build 66 acres. We're bringing basketball to the valley. And not only that, think about what they did in that process. They managed to get Jackie Robinson out of the way. Who's that? Jackie Robinson is or was the developer of the All Net Arena, which I thought was a very exciting concept for an arena until I found out they were not going with a casino partner, which I thought was a big mistake. African American, older, tall, had a smaller group of people he was working with. Took a long time to get the financing, but it took a long time for him to get the financing. I've talked about this before because he refused to partner with a casino group. And not partnering with a casino organization in, of all places, Las Vegas, is kind of like saying that you're going to go to an Italian restaurant, but you're not going to eat the food. Uh, that's an absolutely unimaginable situation, and yet there we were with him. Now, it's not out of line for me to believe that the Oakview people may have given him a financial incentive, him being Jackie Robinson, to get out of trying to bring basketball there because they were going to do it. All right. Note, nary been heard from Mr. Robinson about that. I'd love to get him on the show and talk about what happened. Still, we'll try. We'll see. Oh, by the way, Zenny 62 Media has been credentialed to cover Super Bowl week, and if all goes well, things happen. I'm supposed to be in Las Vegas this coming Wednesday. So, and I'll be there through Saturday and Lee Steinberg's Super Bowl party. So please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so before and you just, comment episodically, so you can follow our Super Bowl coverage from there. Now, Wolverine says, do you think it will be a retractable roof or like Legion Stadium with a window facing the strip? Hoping for a retractable roof. But here's the thing though. Why not both? Okay. My point is, you've been contaminated by, I think it was the Nevada Independent that presented one idea of what a retractable roof was. And that is the most, giving out false information is the most unconscionable thing anyone can do in this business. And that's not correcting it. It's one thing to give out something that's wrong and then correct it. But to give out something that's wrong and then not correct it, as far as I'm concerned, is criminal. And yet that's precisely what happened. You can have a retractable roof that's like a sunroof, all right? In other words, if this is the total roof, it fits, that part of it, right? There are a number of stadiums like that. Cowboy Stadium is like that. And for various different reasons. You have different ways of achieving what a retractable roof is. Now, is it absolutely necessary to have a retractable roof for baseball? Of course not. There have been a number of stadiums domed that have done quite well for baseball without having a movable roof. Is a retractable roof a lot, more sexy? Yeah, of course. But you don't need to have a big one that's like the one in Seattle or T-Mobile. Well, T-Mobile is what I'm thinking of at all. That's not necessary. And so, to answer your question, uh, would it be nice to have a window facing the strip? I look at the other way. If I have a window facing the strip, what I get if I'm outside on the strip looking at it is I get to see the lights from the interior and I know something's going on. And if they have animation where there's fireworks, I can even tell if it's designed so, that something happened because all the fireworks inside are going off, right? So I look at it as a kind of a window into excitement if they design it that way. I don't, now, is it cool to have it stay strip view as they're proposing with, a lanai door kind of setup, which is, if you think about it, lanai doors, like what Allegiant Stadium has, are another type of retractable roof. It's just not a roof. It's the doors. All right. So my point is, there are a lot of ways to achieve that engineering objective of having a retractable part of the covering of the facility. That's really what it's about. It doesn't have to be a roof. It can be doors and achieve precisely the same objective. You want air flowing in and air flowing out so that the stadium is able to, reduce its temperature and have a balancing out, and also take advantage of ambient light during different times of day. So you can do that with, either a retractable roof or movable doors, or if you want to call it retractable. Again, there are a lot of ways to achieve that. So says, here is this I missed. Who knows? Maybe Oak Group instead goes for Jackie Robinson's land now that he's out of the way. That would not at all surprise me. Okay, it really wouldn't. Okay, that would not surprise me. He says, "Do you think they would play in Utah or Summerlin next year? Wherever they play, I'll say this is sad for Oakland, and it is an absolute shame that Oakland Mayor Shane Tower and her staff continue to have this behavior toward the athletics that is adversarial. And I mean, look, if you're going to talk the kind of rhetoric they've been talking, why don't you just go to court on some issue? You know, the reason why they're doing it is because they know they don't have a case. They know that the athletics have been above board with everybody saying, hey, look, we're on parallel paths. What does that mean? It means we 1 foot into the door and 1 foot out. And they've had 1 foot in and 1 foot out for about, 3 years. Well, let's take away the time where now they're obviously out. Okay. But if you think about last year, early last year, actually the year before that, when they were 1 foot in and 1 foot out, they're already telling you, hey, look, we're gonna get out of here. And for some particular reason, people don't either want to remember or didn't listen. But the commissioner of baseball said in late 2022, I'm done talking about Oakland. All right. How many times do they have to tell you what their intentions are? All right. And how many times? And then how many times do they have to take these actions that lead to the objective of building a facility in Las Vegas and not in Oakland? You know, when does Oakland get it? As ran by Shang Tao. All right. And what good is it making fun of people or anything else? All right. So hold on one moment, please. Excuse me there. Okay, so yeah, so anyways, I was saying I don't think it makes any difference where they play. The Coliseum needs that money. Now you ask, Summerlin Ballpark is so nice, you love the atmosphere there. And then the Vegas Mark says Summerlin makes the most sense in terms of building a new fan base from scratch. We'll see. Well, you know, you do have what 42,000 people that have left California for Las Vegas. And remember, if they see the A's there, they don't necessarily have to see the A's. They can go because, well, the Dodgers are playing, or the Angels, or you get the idea, and just wait until high speed rail is finished. Woo. Okay. Um, and so Gravity Falls says the fact that Utah literally has a brand new ballpark and are willing to brand it for the A's and they don't have to share clubhouses, I think Salt Lake City is a probable front runner. I would agree with that. Vegas Mark says says to Vegas Mark, the atmosphere and energy at Summerlin is 10 of 10. Yeah, I've heard that. So again, the pastures are greener there. And but I remind you, the similarities between what happened in Oakland with the Raiders and what happened in Oakland with respect to the Athletics and the Warriors are all these. Oakland has done nothing this go around to try to replace any of the teams. Nothing. No plan for upgraded facility. No plan for it to actually do Coliseum City. We're working on it. I'm trying to push that along, and I've got some help in the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, thankfully. And that's moving along. But the bigger overview is that Oakland hasn't done anything. And so, what's the common denominator here? Oakland's inaction. It's Oakland's inaction. Only thing Oakland's done under Oakland Mayor Shang Tao is play fake news games and hire public relations organizations to pump out that fake news. That's taxpayer dollars, by the way. Is that a good use of taxpayer money? Of course not. You make a statement by engaging with developers to build. Now, those out there would say, well, we don't need that because we have a housing issue. You know what? Building affordable housing is a 2-year proposition on a per project basis. You want to solve the homeless problem? You put money in the pockets of the people who need it. Okay. Then you get them into the house they can afford to stay in. All right. And then you maintain those payments for them and then help them in other ways to build up their human capital so that they can be productive citizens again in the society. We used to do that. All right. Now we have people who talk against that and say, well, what if they use the money for drugs? Recent study out of LA showed that, you know what? You help people and by giving them money, they're going to use it to help themselves, less likely for drugs. Maybe 6% of the population uses it that way, not beyond that. So R says high speed rail from LA to Vegas would be great. Yeah. And the federal government's pumped several billion into helping them out to get there. Dan Adams says, I hope you do a follow up on Oakland's strong mayor system and how it's not working. Yeah. And that's the other, I can explain to you succinctly why it's not working because it puts the layperson, and I'm happy to expand on this, and it's directly responsible for the loss of sports teams. It puts the layperson in the position of the professional city manager, city planner, the people who make the decisions, particularly with respect to development. When we had a district system under a council manager form of government, council members were more powerful and better able to direct resources for development in their districts. How else to explain how, for example, Pat Kernahan spearheaded the redevelopment of the Oakland Metropolitan uh, Theater, and which is really stalled over. It's supposed to have been finished by now, but that was her baby, and it's what's going on with it. But it started way back before we had ranked choice voting, and before we had ranked choice voting and strong mayor. It started back in the '90s. The idea of rebuilding the auditorium, the Oakland Auditorium, that where I went to my first Star Trek convention way back in 1975, or any number of initiatives for housing, cleanup, business assistance, you name it. Council districts were the ones that really led the development. I'm going to get a video of that really encapsulates what I'm trying to explain, and it is then Oakland Council member Larry Reed really criticizing Oakland Mayor Jean Kwan's block by block program openly in her press conference. I mean, he got after her something terrible. Okay, he really did. I mean, he just laid it out, and so I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it here. It's 30 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole 30 minutes, but I'm going to play enough for you to have a taste of the rub between a strong mayor, Jean Kwan, and a person who was a child of our council manager system, and that's Larry Reed. Now you have council members, Jenkins in District 6, Treva Reed, who's her father's predecessor in District 7, Nikki Bass, who is in District 2, who's running for supervisor, and then Janani Rachmandran in District 4, and less so Noel Geil in District 5, but now you have a healthy number of council members. When Carol Fife in District 3. District 3, 4, 5, and 3, 4, 6, and 7. All of those council members don't know Oakland. They don't know in Oakland. In fact, really, arguably, neither does Dan Calby. Came in 2012. So I would say, yeah. The city council as a whole does not know in Oakland that was under a council manager form of government. Larry Reed was the last person who did. Okay. Libby Schaff, the mayor, knew what it was. Even though she benefited under a strong mayor, she remembered the other system too. But my point is, there's not appreciation for what it was like because You got people who are active now who were never around or living in Oakland. We had a council manager form of government. So I'm going to get the Larry Reid, Gene Kwan thing. Here it is right here. I'm going to let it play and start. Turn it up, make sure that it is properly set. And I'll start under my old introduction system. Let's let it go here. We often find ourselves searching for information. There are millions of blogs on the internet: news, sports, politics, and tech. But I bring it all together for you and present it in a relentlessly original fashion. My name is Zenny Abraham, and this is the Blog Report. It's time now for politics.
The mayor wanted to make herself available for the many questions that you had about the recent statistic about the 100 Blocks initiative. So we'll hear first from Mayor Kwan, and then we'll hear some remarks from our city administrator, Deanna Santana. Also our assistant chief, Anthony Toribio. Chief Howard Jordan is on vacation. Also from the mayor's senior public safety advisor, Reagan Harmon, and Bob Bally, who's the CEO of Forensic Logic, who's our data person. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mayor Kwan.
Good afternoon. So I understand you had some questions for me while I was gone. Last year I was given statistics about the areas of high violence and homicides in the city. I have been using that data until the urban strategy data was released last week. To describe our 100 Blocks initiative and how we were trying to reduce the really extremely high levels of violence and homicides in the city. As mayor, I probably should have taken more time to analyze the data myself and read it myself. I didn't.
I'm going to stop right here and make a point, though. I think it's important to make, and it's this, that under our strong mayor, the strong mayor is making decisions for specific council areas that the council members know better, and thus the rub of what you're about to hear. That's what caused it all. All right, let's continue.
So I'll take full responsibility for the error of using that particular statistic. But I want to say to you is that even though...
I forgot to mention one other thing before I let her finish there. It's this. The city manager would work with the council members to make sure that he or she, the city manager, understood their issues and their resource needs. And so they're responding to those officials who had the ear to the ground, who were working with the constituents, their people that live in their districts, right? So then you add the mayor who's out of touch with both, therefore makes policy errors and policy investment errors that leave the council districts suffering in terms of safety in particular. That has to do with economic development too. It causes people to leave if it's not safe, right? Let's continue.
The statistics we were using were incorrect. The neighborhoods that are picked by the data, that data and the data that the police department is using are exactly the same. It is the same areas because many things in Oakland haven't changed. They may move a little bit this direction or that direction, but Many of these neighborhoods have for decades have been dealing with ongoing violence and homicide rates, and that is the issue we're trying to address. And we think that we have the right strategy, the right plan, and quite frankly, the right team. We're 5 months into this plan, and during those 5 months, some of you have seen some of the results. We've clearly been able to coordinate homicide and violent crime data among many different agencies. Recently, during the APF, we've had 60 convictions. There will be more convictions coming up next week with other federal agencies. And we're beginning to see shootings and homicides slow down. That's clear from the beginning of the year. Second part of that strategy was that we were going to work more closely to provide the support that the police needed. Sienna Santana is going to talk about that. And for the first time, crimes become an issue not just for the police, but for the whole city. So
Okay, now that you got a gist of that, I'm going to fast forward to Larry Reed, because you're going to hear a lot about from these folks, and I want to get right to the heart of the matter, the heart of the problem we're talking about here. And I believe it's right here.
It's up 20%. Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing into one of the... That hasn't been mentioned this entire time, the latest stats that came out. Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing into one of the... Part 1 crime is up 20%. How can we say that it's working if Part 1 crime is up 20%, number one? And number two, Mayor, you've been...
And that's why it's important for us to stay the course.
office has been going on and the amount of crime is trending up. So, we know that Part 1 crimes are up, and that's why we've been trying to develop these strategies. So we know also, if you look at the maps more carefully, some neighborhoods of crime are going down, and when they're able to do the hotspot deployment, they're able to get it down. We're hoping that, particularly with the help of the federal agencies that are going after some of the ringleaders and some of the more violent crimes, that we'll see a long-term impact on that. We don't know, but we think that we will, because it will take out a lot of leaders out of the area for a long time. So we're not blind to that. We're definitely working on it. But when we developed this plan, it was for homicides and violent crimes. We're looking mostly at murders and shootings. And murders and shootings, if you were to take out oils, is actually a little below where it was last year. Does that make me happy? No, that's not going to make anyone happy. But that is what we focus on in this. We're also, by using the hotspot method, which is why I wanted the chief to address it, we've also been able to get burglaries and robberies down in particular neighborhoods as we get a bead on who the perpetrators in those areas.
What about curfews and gang injunctions? The second part of the question.
Curfews and gang injunctions.
I actually support curfews and.
They were ignoring Larry at the time. I was trying to motion them to pay attention to Larry.
Larry was curfews for particular areas, not citywide curfews.
Couldn't get it out of committee. You were on the committee.
See?
You were on the committee. I couldn't get it out of public safety committee.
I'd actually support a curfew that was aimed at hotspot areas and not a citywide curfew, because I don't think we have enough resources for a citywide curfew. I also, on the gang injunction, it seems that if we did more target injunctions rather than doing wide areas again, we would have been caught in long lawsuits. We were caught in a lawsuit that cost the city over $1 million and delayed the implementation a year. I supported the North Oakland gang injunctions, so it's never as against injunctions as a question of how they were implemented. And at that time, the chief agreed with me.
Okay, Mayor Klein, you said you were given incorrect data. It sounds to me like you're passing the buck again. Who gave you the wrong incorrect data?
You know, I'm not a researcher, and I'm there. I don't do all my own research, although I may now, and may have my own staff double. But in many community meetings, I think it's actually Matthias' article, many community meetings.
So you get the idea. But there's another one too, because the problem is that look, that the mayor was trying to do the job that the city manager does and works individually with the districts. The mayor's a lay person. She directs staff. The staff work to make her happy. Okay? as opposed to the hands-off that we had by comparison in a council manager form of government. And this is why we have the problem that we do. And so Larry held his own little press conference outside, all right? And
in today's world of high,
excuse me for a second, and really just went off and leveled Gene, and rightly so, because he had a plan that she did not let leave committee. She blocked him for political reasons, and he is the District 7 council member, okay? And so he was angry about it, and he wasn't going to shut up about it, and so he went out there, and what he went out there to do is this. And this, you would say this has nothing to do with sports. This has everything to do with the A's problem, the Raiders problem, and the Warriors problem. It's the lack of leadership because of these layers. And you're not letting people in their lanes, like the city council person has their lane, let them do their job and give them the resources to work with a professional staff person, city manager and their planning assistants and economic development to get the job done, all right? This extra layer is not working. Watch this.
The curfew ordinance. When we had the lottery ordinance that I drafted and brought forward, she put a sunset date on it for 1 year. The lottery ordinance was never implemented when Chief Rich Word was here because of her putting this 1 year sunset. And OPD came to me when Rich Word was on and said, we need to have this lottery ordinance to deal with all these youthful offenders who are out on the streets. And she wasn't going to vote for it originally, but then she came up, well, let's try it for 1 year. And the plan never got implemented.
After this meeting, it looks like there's really no new policies that are going into place.
No, there isn't. There isn't. So she just came because she'd been away in Brazil. So now she comes back because she thought it was going to be a 1 day, 2 day story, come back and it'd be blown over. But then you guys kept asking the most important questions. What about this 100 block plan? Why is the statistics of urban strategy gave is different from the statistics that you've given? And so now she's coming back and saying, yeah, I accept full responsibility for the inaccuracy. Well, you've been out for 5 months preaching about how good this 100 block plan is going to be in addressing the violent crime. The chief says he cannot sustain it. I have not seen any additional resources put out in my community. And the coordination of city services, well, I drive through my district every week. I've got to call out illegal dumping. So where are all this coordinated effort between all the city departments, even within the 100 block, and even extended beyond the 100 block? I've not seen it.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
No, it really doesn't exist. I mean, so she's giving y'all this political BS, and just go look where she did not. When Parada won the popular vote, but because of this new system that we're in, go look at the statistics and see that she did not win.
He's talking about ranked choice voting.
One precinct in my district didn't win. One precinct in Councilmember Brooks' district did not win. One precinct in Nancy Nadal's district. That's her strategy, a 100 block plan, because she felt that she was going to be recalled. And so you had to put together a strategy to go out and empower people and to organize folks. That's why her husband heads up this block by block network that's out there organizing in the weakest part of the city.
Council President, was this a case of her chief of staff actually pushing her out there? In other words, making statements to the media, and then she came back and deal with it, and now we're here?
Well, she thought it was going to be a 1-2 day story, but you guys kept asking the questions, so she had to do something.
How do you move forward from here? How do you work this out? Because there are people saying, it's easy pickings now in Oakland.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you work it out. I think that's a question that you need to ask our chief. We have limited amount of resources. And as I asked him at the council meeting, give me not the political answer, but give me an honest answer. Can you sustain this 100 blocks? And he said there was no way that he could do that.
So what are they doing? So what are they doing then, Larry?
We have to stay the course.
Well,
We have the right strategy, we just have to keep with it.
Well, the mayor is responsible for hiring the city administrator, and the city administrator is responsible for hiring the police chief. So what else would you say if your bosses are standing up there with you? I'd give you the correct political answer too.
You're saying that they don't believe what they're saying.
If people were honest and upfront, then I think they would give you the correct answer.
So if the chief told you that he's not doing the 100 blocks, what is then going on?
He said he can't sustain the 100 blocks. But, you know, thanks to our partners, the feds, who've been out helping us, then we may make a small impact. But I guarantee you, the same issues that the city is faced with now, come next year, we will still be faced with those same issues that are impacting the quality of life for the people.
I'm gonna stop it there because it goes on. But my point is, and I think you see the problem, all right? And it's plagued us. We have a mayor, it doesn't matter who the mayor is, but that mayor, a strong mayor, can intimidate the city administrators to following what that mayor wants. By contrast, when we had the city manager in charge, the city manager was in charge of implementation of policy and didn't have to worry about getting fired. Why? It took 5 votes to get fired the city manager. 5. Now it just takes the mayor who can fire that person on a bad day. Maybe they took the wrong drug or something. I'm not kidding you. All right. There's no check and balance to make the mayor keep their professional staff intact. As a result, who the city administrator has literally been a revolving door since strong mayor was implemented, with the average city administrator lasting just maybe over 2 years, as opposed to closer to 5, 4, when we had the older system over a longer period of time. And it's not a way to be able to establish long-term plans with the comfort that the financing is going to be there, that's not going to be messed with. Let's take, for example, the 911 system. 911 system was underfunded. So what did the city do under Shangtao? She went and raided the Coliseum's coffers for a few million. And I told anyone who wouldn't listen, if I were in charge of the Coliseum, I would say, hands off my money. Okay? But the Coliseum has no defenders. None. It has no champion. So the city is literally left to be allowed to pick at it. And that's also true for initiatives that are on a district level. Who fights for the district? Who can really fight for the district? Because now you got you have professional staff that are politically hamstrung. They cannot go out and do the right thing. They have to worry about their mayor firing them. And that's why we have the problems we do. And that's why we don't have people who want to step up and give you honest answers, because they rather give you the political answers to save their jobs, because they live in a hyper expensive area of the Bay Area and they prefer to keep their nice lifestyles, which is the other issue. Okay. All of this has impacted why we don't have major sports in Oakland. It's the same problem. You have a layperson mayor that has a blanket idea of how things should go, that isn't willing to really look to their personal staff, and doesn't want a task force with outside voices. That has been true for Jerry Brown. That was less true for Ron Dellums, who did have a task force. Unfortunately, he lasted 1 term. Gene Kwan did not maintain that task force. Libby didn't want task forces, and Shang Tao didn't want them. All right? Think about that. Of all the mayors we've had in the 21st century, only one wanted task forces regarding economic development and sports to listen to what people wanted to say. Now, we've had a change in the JPA where they've added the sports advisory board at my behest. Took a long time, but we finally got it. But hell, we haven't filled any seats yet. Just saying. So let me see here. It says just feel fun. Okay. And then having said all this, it's a shame the A's are not building a Howard terminal. Well, it is, but it would be better if we had gambling too. We need sports gambling. Gabby Paula says, if similar to what Orlando proposed, if we'll have an outdoor feel while being integrated with the new Bally's Hotel, right? And I'm glad that Clark County, Henderson, and North Las Vegas have council manager systems. Council manager systems have served them better. They really have. So I hope that lays out where they are, the athletics, why it's going in may very well take until 2029, and then also why it's important to understand that financing has nothing to do with the billionaire's wealth and everything to do with land control, political incentives, and partners and development partners. And then finally, why Oakland loses its sports teams, and it really has to do with its strong mayor form of government and the fact that lay people are a bit too much in charge. And the professional class has been pushed aside and relegated to a place where they give political answers and not honest ones. All right? Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube, and please bookmark OaklandNewsNowBlog.com, and then my newest blog, NFL News by Zenny62.com. We'll see you. If you have any other ideas or observations you want me to talk about, and I'll expand on the council manager form of government in another video, thank you. Please put in the comments or send an email or text. Thank you.